Hello and welcome back to another AP3 video, and in today's video we'll be going over AP Environmental Topic 5.5 Irrigation Methods. So let's get started. So irrigation, basically the definition of it is literally just controlling how much water you want to add to crops to maximize the production of crops. That's what basically the easy definition of it. Now the problem with that is that we use a lot of fresh water to plant the crops. To be more specific, 70% of our fresh water is used for irrigation. The other 20% is for industrial purposes, and then the other 10% of fresh water is residential. So this is what's the problem of irrigation. Now there's 4 types of irrigations we're gonna go over today, and we're gonna go over flood first, then furrow, and I believe spray, and then drip irrigation is gonna be the last one. So let's talk about flood irrigation first. So flood irrigation is basically taking a lake and a river and diverting it and digging up a trench so the water runs to the crops area. Basically, we're just bringing the water from the lake and bringing it to the crops, digging a trench. So what we have to do is grade the soil, basically tilting the soil in order for the water to approach the soil, because due to the water only runs by gravity up and down, we have to tilt the soil so that the water can come in to the soil. Now what's easy about it is that we just have to dig. There's no machinery necessarily that we have to use, and it's inexpensive, and it happens most of the time in developing countries. Now the bad part about it is that it requires water nearby to get into your field, and 20% of the water is lost due to evaporation. Now you're going to see a pattern with irrigation that the water is lost because of evaporation by a huge percentage, in this case 20, but there's going to be one specific irrigation that's going to have a lower percentage when it comes water loss due to evaporation. And it's not for all types of plants. The land must be graded. Again, we have to tilt it so the water can approach it. And levees are neater or just like a low wall so the water doesn't leave the area that it goes. And it's going to lead to problems that we're going to talk about later in this video: waterlogging and salinization. So the second irrigation we're talking about is furrow irrigation. And furrow irrigation is basically building a furrow or trenches on either side of where the crops are, and again divert water so it goes into the crops. Now the good thing about it, it's low investment, it's not going to cost a lot of money. Basically no machinery, we just have to dig a trench, that's about it. It's high sediment water that can be used, and it allows for precision of application. So the bad thing about it is that, as we can see, 33% of water is lost due to evaporation, and then it causes soil erosion and all the problems that are caused because of soil erosion. It's not efficient on sandy soil, and it's going to be infiltrate in groundwater before it gets to the end of your row. And it's hard applying in small amounts, so it either be a whole trench or it's basically nothing. So now we're going to talk about spray irrigation. Now spray irrigation, we're going to use pumps to pump out the water to spray out of a nozzle to the plants. Now the good thing about it is that there's a precision application about how much water we want to add into the plants, and it's programmed so that the plants can have more or less water, and depending on the different times of the year. And supplements can be introduced into the water, and it's efficient because we either lose 25% or less water lost due to evaporation. Even though it's 25%, it can even lose less water. It's programmed to run at certain times of the day, so we can control how much water we want during the time of the year and the time of the day that we want. The bad thing about it is that it's a larger up cost. It's a lot of money, and it's by up cost, it's a lot of fresh water, and it costs a lot of money for machinery. And it can include money run, which is electricity and fossil fuels use. And if we use too much fossil fuel, obviously we're gonna need fossil fuel, and that's gonna cause carbon to be released in the atmosphere. Nozzle can clog, which leads to no to low sediment, and pivot system can put ruts into the soil, and ruts is basically cut into the soil, which will lead to soil erosion. So this is the good things and the bad things of spray irrigation. Now we're going to talk about drip irrigation. This is the last one you need to remember. So there's 4. So drip irrigation is basically we have pipes having micro pores in them buried under the ground, and once turned on, the sweat water is going to go to the roots. Now the good thing about it, as we can see, it has low evaporation rate compared to the other 3 that has like 20, 30, or 25 or less. This one only loses 5% of water due to evaporation, so low evaporation rate. It reduces nutrition leaching, and that's basically when water runs through anything, it can dissolve nutrients and take it into the subsoil. Now, waters precisely goes to the roots to allow it water precisely gets to roots to take it up, and we don't want it in the soil, we want it in the roots. So no lost nutrients, we want no lost nutrients in the subsoil. And no land grading needed, so we don't need to tilt anything, so we just push it out by mechanized pumps. The bad thing about it, it's expensive and it can clog easily like the nozzle, and it requires mechanization, and if we use too much of it, we're gonna have fossil fuels and again CO2. And placement makes any other process harder, and it works better with plants that are annuals, or basically we just plant it, we can forget it, kind of like an apple that we can just plant the tree and just pick it out. So we plant it and we were gonna forget nothing. So this is what happens with drip irrigation. It's the best one because we lose remember the lowest rate of evaporation, but it's gonna cost more money. We actually need machinery, and the placement is very important. So now we're gonna talk about some problems because of any type of irrigation. So we have waterlogging, and normally healthy plants or normal plants like to have air pockets in the roots, and it performs really important stuff like cellular respiration, and it just helps the plants grows. Now the problem is that when we start pouring when we put a lot of water into the soil till the air pockets are filled, the plants can't grow anymore and they cannot do cellular respiration. Basically, the roots are gonna die, therefore the plant dies as well. And it occurs in flood irrigation fields with high clay content. Now how can we fix it? Well, we can let the field dry out, controlling irrigation methods. We can control the types of irrigation methods. We can select precise crops, for example, rice, and sand for more drainage, so that the sand can absorb all the water, so that the air pockets aren't filled with water, so they can actually do respiration and grow. And we can use drip irrigation to use precise watering so the water doesn't build up. So now we're going to talk about salinization. This is basically where salt builds up on soil. But how does it happen? So fresh water has some salt in the actual water, and in a hot area, and when we water a lot, evaporation happens. And then basically once the fresh water evaporates, since salt is a solid, it's left behind building up into the soil. The problem with it inhibits plant growth and is going to eventually create a salty desert area as time progresses due to evaporation, as we can see from the image. So what can we do to remedy it or fix it? We can keep flushing the field with fresh water till it's rinsed out again, and it's gonna be very costly in terms of money and fresh water, because fresh water is only so limited amount in the whole world. So if we use more fresh water, we're gonna have less healthy water that we can use to drink. We can grow tolerant plants, just basically grow plants through some of the salt. We can grow salt tolerant plants, but it's not gonna do all the salt. It can grow through some of the salt, not all of it. And the best way to fix it is just don't use it. There's just better watering techniques. So this is the problem with salinization. And then we have aquifer use and overuse. So what is this? This is an area of groundwater where it has a concentration of water, usually in some sort of porous rock, and it's recharged by infiltration from rain or runoff. The problem with it's gonna be tragedy of the commons, where farmers are individually drawing water from the aquifer, which is gonna lead to levels dropping faster than it can recharge. And basically at some point, because we use more resources than we need, it's gonna run dry. But what would happen in a coastal region right against a body of salt water? So with high pressure on fresh water, that you can have a lot of it in the exerting pressure, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna keep the salt water out of the aquifer. The problem with that is that when we are draining fresh water, we're lowering the pressure there, and the salt water can intrude till it joins the aquifer, making the salt water, or making it salty and making it basically useless. What we can do about it is get an injection well, or just use water a little bit more wisely. And that's about it. Thank you for watching another AP3 video. We'll see you on the next one.